Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Talking Locs podcast with Locitude. This is the Everyday People with Locs series, and I am your host, Adi Balogun. This episode is produced by Savage Media. Today, we will be threatening the globe with Ngumo, who is of Kenyan descent and has spent the last decade and a half exploring parts of the world in his journeys through life as a man with locks. He is also a professional mountain climber, a good friend, and a big motivator of Locitude. And now, without further ado, let's get into it. Hi Ngumo, welcome to the Talking Locs podcast with Locitude. This is the Everyday People with Locs series, and we are very happy to have you on today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure being around and trying to talk a little bit of the Locs journey.
Great. Okay, so would you kind of like to? I like to start to say, tell us your full name and a little bit about yourself, so that our listeners can get a sense of who you are.
Okay, where do I start? Start with my name's Ngumo Charles. Always start with the African name because that's how African I am. And from Kenya, born and raised, a country boy. I don't know. Then grew up in Kenya, did all the stuff, and then I've been out of Kenya from as far back as 07. Traveled to a few countries, and now I'm currently at Qatar in Doha.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. That's like 13 years of traveling around the globe. I wish I had your life without any drama that you personally have, though.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful life, but it has its ups and downs. So sometimes I wish I was home. Sometimes, and then I kind of love traveling and seeing all these different cultures around the world.
Okay, great. So how long have you had your locks now?
Wow, now 6 years counting.
6 years? That's short. I thought it would have been more.
Well,
okay.
Well, I think it's 6 years counting and going to the 7th year, because I started with when, as I always tell you, it's like it was a dream, and I promised to myself that when I clock 40, then I'll put. Now I'm clocking 46, so I count it as 6 years, and counting.
Well, you must be right. I think I feel like I've known you forever. That's why I feel it's been longer than that. Okay, that's interesting. I'll just go back to the promise. You had a dream, and then you promised yourself you're going to have locks at the age of 40. Is that right?
That's all right, yeah.
So what was that dream like? I'm just curious.
Now, growing up, and the age, in those days of the 80s, there were some music videos that I used to watch. Not more of reggae, because you kind of grow up knowing reggae with locks.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another group. I can't remember the group, and they had these small locks that you shave the sides, and they are just at the top of your head. And I was like, wow, I kind of love to have that kind of locks. And then as I was growing up, and okay, this is two things that I would want in my life. And I promised myself, like, when I grow, when I'm out of my parents' house, because my dad would have, I think my dad would have shot me. And so I decided when I grow up and I'm out and I'm doing my things, and then I hit 40, I promise myself I'll have two things. I'll have locks, and then I'll get myself a tattoo. And that's what I did after happy birthday on the 40th.
Oh, awesome. Okay, you said something interesting that I can identify with as a West African. You said when you leave home, you didn't want your father to shoot you. So you said, you wanted to be completely grown and independent before having your locks. I think in West Africa, a lot of men and even women experience the same thing, where you are looking for absolute independence. So my question is, are locks frowned at in East Africa?
Yeah, with the older generation, fortunately now it's like they're the in thing. But now when you go back, being the child of the 70s, growing up in the 80s, my parents and the family and the community at large were frowned about. The logs were not something to envy. If you had logs, you had two things. You were like a thief or a troublesome. You are a problem to the society. They didn't look at them like, wow, this is good. So it was the madmen and women who had logs and thieves that had logs. And I know kids that could not hear or obey to their parents. So having logs, and then you are into drugs. So, and if you're not a thief, then you are into drugs. And then so it was something to be envy. And people who had logs would be like, there was all this, you'd hear the community, you'd hear your parents, you'd hear people saying, I would not want my child to turn out like so and so. And so is not into drugs, but that was the conception of, and that the whole idea, you're into drugs, you are a thief, you're not somebody in the family. And because you didn't have, and when I mean family, is the family idea, is the idea of the African, like a family is the whole village and the community. So that's why it just came out when I said I was looking forward for that day when I will be free and independent. Then at least I can go back to my dad and know my dad will be like, okay, as much as I don't approve, then it's good. Now I'm old and wise. So yeah, it's something that that's the whole notion in those days in the 80s.
Okay, that's some very interesting perspective you bring because in my own few years of travel, when you go east to the east of Africa and to the south of Africa, you see more and more people having locks. So I actually automatically thought that it was something that there were no negative connotations about. So I think we have actually, or I personally have gained some insights. I know we're talking about travel, but I'm just going to use the opportunity of you being from another side of Africa to ask some other questions. Do you think that the negative perceptions of mostly the older generation stem from colonialism, or where do you think we stopped embracing our hair as Africans?
An interesting question, and I think the theory, for me, it baffles me a little bit because now, if you look at East Africa, let me be precise by Kenya, and then when I say Kenya, let me be precise with my tribe, the Kikuyu tribe. When you go to the Kikuyu tribe, they used to have, and the Maasai up to now, but let me first touch on the Kikuyu. The war for independence, the men had locks, and they were heroes. They were not looked down upon. They were heroes because the guy who were on the side of the colonials, those were like now the turncoats, as they were called, and they were hated, and the family was, sneered anytime they walk out, and everything. All the bad things were going to the guys that were working for the colonial. Then I don't know. And then after independence, the whole thing of the British, because being ruled by the British, the clean shave, the suits and everything, things started to turn. And loosely I would put the blame squarely on the colonial masters, I think, to have said, now this is not good because these are the guys, if you had locks, then you are either from the Mau Mau, or you're still believing in the Mau Mau war, or you're still a follower of the Mau Mau war. So I think it was something that the fear was put to a point that now the clean shave, the small hair, the not to have the afro, it was now the cool thing. And so to me, it is like that's where the belief of we've got to look to shun away from locks. I think that came about from that time.
Okay, I almost feel like I'm in a university lecture room taking some notes on East Africa. I was going to start asking about the Mau Mau war and what that meant, but I know that this is a Locs and Travel podcast, so let's bring it back to the conversation we're trying to have. So I met you in Nigeria probably about 4 or 5 years ago now, and at the time you were basically living in Nigeria. You did mention at the beginning of the podcast that you are in Qatar now. And I know we have spent some time, fortunately for me, as you being my mountain guide in Kenya and in Tanzania. So it does seem like you've been just my own personal encounters with you. I know of you in about 4 different countries at the very least. So in the past few years, where has life taken you to? Where have you traveled to? If we can start from there.
Okay, so way back in 0708, I traveled. When we got, when me and now my time, at that time, fiancé or girlfriend at that time, before we got married, Diana Gerard, and then we decided we are going to be in a neutral country, so we went to Kazakhstan. At the moment, I didn't know where Kazakhstan is, but it is a huge, beautiful country, full of mountains, full of history, full of good people. And it took me to Kazakhstan, and I was there for like 5 years, and a place that I still love, hold dearly. And then from then, that's when I came to Nigeria. And surprisingly, when I was in Kazakhstan, in the church, ICU, International Christian Union, I had some friends from Kazakhstan, and that's the guys who gave me the Nigerian's name, Noachuku. Ikechuku. Remember, it is Ikechuku. Yes, Ikechuku. And I was telling them that I would love to go because of the Nigerians movie. I love the movies of the village, the pidgin speaking movies. I love them. And I used to tell them, like, I would like to go to your country and then go to the village and sip palm wine and then listen to these guys. Lo and behold, I didn't know that I'm going to be there for another almost 5 years. And I found myself now again in Nigeria, a place that I also call home. I met you and some other lovely people, and I was there for another, almost 5 years. Then I moved from there, went to Uganda, East Africa, the Pearl of Africa, as they call it, a beautiful, easy down. And I remembered complaining to my wife, saying, these people are too calm. I was used to the battle of Nigeria and the shouting matches of Nigeria and people, until when I was coming like, wait a minute, these people are too calm. I'm missing something. I want something. And then my wife was like, come, why don't you just, enjoy? And I'm like, no, I was enjoying that.
The hustle and bustle of Lagos.
Yes, of Lagos. These people are too calm for my liking. They're everything. There is no that. I was there for another 2 years, and then we had to move again. And now I'm in Qatar, Doha, for almost now going to 2 years. And and then in the UK, I'm on and off. It's another place that I call home. So for the last, always in a year, I make sure that I'm there twice or thrice. So it's another place that I also travel to. I've been, these other countries just for visiting. You go there, you come back, and so basically that's me.
Okay, that's awesome. That's like an adventurous life. Like if I was given a choice to, just spend a few years in a different country and have very interesting experiences and make new family, I would be very excited, and I am excited for you because when I did meet you in Lagos, I was able to learn a lot from you. I started to pick up some Swahili. Oh my God, I was going to start this podcast with Mambo VP.
Yeah, I was like, what happened to you? I was like, I'm talking to a dead fish.
Mambo VP. Huh?
Yes.
You're not responding.
Pole.
Oh, sawa.
Sawa.
Oh yes, I had to flaunt some of my Swahili skills there. So, in what country exactly did you start your locks? Because I believe you already had them before you came to Nigeria.
Yeah, I had them. Started by a good friend of mine who is a guy called Kibe in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's where I started my lock journey. And I remember my first time when they were all done, I was like, do I love them? Do I? Now the journey has started. I felt because I had a big afro, so my mind was. Remember when I was growing up, I still had, I saw that video of that music group. So for some reason, I just wanted to have a whole head full of locks, so I didn't go for just the top of the head. So having a big afro, we are used to big hair, and then all of a sudden, when they're all done, they are all lying down,
A
and I
bit
was,
skinny.
yeah, I look very different. So I had to get a hat to wear, base cap, and yeah. So I started in Kenya. That's where my lock journey started.
Okay, awesome. So I'm thinking in my mind now, over the last like 6 years, you've gone from Kenya to Nigeria to
Yeah,
Uganda, now Qatar, in and out of the
yeah,
UK, and you
yeah.
have this hair. How is it like getting to a new place and trying to figure out how to maintain your hair? Can you tell us a bit about finding people, what the weather in these different countries does to your hair, and how you cope in managing it?
Oh boy, yeah. It's now that's where you kind of feel like, should I cut them? Should I do this? Should I do? Now coming to after they were done, then it was now the whole journey I started to keep them, and then so there is all these. You start now getting to go to the shops, to the sites there where the women shower caps are. First, it was odd and it was a bit weird and it didn't feel comfortable to go and say, can I have a shower cap? Or now you have a shower cap in your bag. So those are the things that I hadn't factored in. And so it's been challenging coming to you, Nigeria. First, I was like confused, but I remember the first place I went to is, I think, Four Seasons, the hotel Four Seasons by, I think, Lekki,
Yeah.
and it didn't go well because it didn't go well
Is
until
it four
now.
seasons or 4 points?
Luckily enough, yeah, 4 point, 4 point, yeah. It was a 4 point in Lekki. That's where I went the first time, and the lady who did my hair, oh God, she didn't even know what she was doing. So I was like, me, I'm done. My own don't finish. Oh. So, but luckily, I went to this Kenyan meeting, and there was a lady who saw me, and she was so happy because there was another lockhead in the meeting. I know these ambassadorial meetings where you go to Oga so and so is coming, and she came up to me, and then she started having small talks, and that's when she introduced me to you. She
Yeah.
told me there is a lake called Adet in Dolphin. I didn't know where it is, and the number is this, and then the famous call that I did to you, and we started off. So getting to know you, getting to come to Locitude, that has been a blessing, and thank you so much, because when locks are that tiny, they need to be nurtured, and you did a beautiful, fantastic job. So I walk with my head high because of you, and I thank you so much. Going to Uganda again, it was also it's always the different, as you're saying, the different weather. Sometimes it's too dry, then you're like, you don't know what to do. Are you applying too much oil? Are you supposed to wash with this, or are you doing to do? It was always it's been always a struggle to find somebody, a loctician who has your high. I find, and I find it, you need somebody who is in love with your hair, not like more of the money. That they want, proud that when they see you, they see this is my work. But I find most of the people you come in, it's the money, not the upkeep, not the welfare of your hair. And I feel it when I go to a new salon loctician, the way they're going to handle I think for me it makes my searching a bit harder, because I want somebody who I go in and feel comfortable, that they are proud that whatever they are doing to my hair, it's them. This is my work. And most of them, they are detached. I feel them, they are detached, and I can't go back to somebody like that. So yeah. So I need somebody who, yes, this is it. I'm proud, and so it's been hard. And going to Uganda, I found another guy. Luckily, he was from the Congo. That's Congo
Yeah.
Brazzaville. He was a good guy, and slowly by slowly he got and he knew what he was doing. And now the time I almost felt that I'm going to cut my hair is now coming to Qatar. I was like, how do I get somebody to do my hair? I haven't seen anybody or any friends or Kenyans seen with locks, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to cut. And again, I had that feeling. I don't want people to say, like, okay, he cut his hair because the Arab said you should cut your locks. So that thing, and I was determined to get somebody, a loctician, and being in a Muslim country, that was a bit tricky. But at the end of the day, I met a lady who works as a cleaner, and they say, where do you do this, where do you do this? And I was lucky enough to get somebody. And that guy works under the radar of the government. But yeah, he's good. So there is that, when you have locks, you find like there is that challenge of trying to get somebody who is, when you're used to somebody like Locitude, to get somebody like Locitude.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, just a follow-up question to that. In finding, it just seems like you kind of have to find who works for you. And I really like what you said, that you have to find someone who cares about the welfare of your hair and not just money. So that way you guys are able to grow together. But in your looking and searching, did you ever pick up any skills in doing your own hair yourself?
Oh, yes. Now I think I can even open a Locitude part 2.
We should talk after this call for a partnership for expansion,
Yeah, I have. And I think from first and foremost, I always go back to, because in Kenya, the guy started my journey, not much of what to do with my hair. And then I came to Nigeria, where after some time I met you. Mm-hmm. And I remember you doing your own hair, because I met you when you still had your locks. It was like, it was still long and all that kind of stuff. So there's some styles, easy. I can make a very beautiful bun. I don't have even, if I want a bun, a beautiful one, I know how to do it. And then later on, there was some time you started kind of teaching me how to do stuff. And then you started off with a Locitude styling on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because it was easy for me to follow you, because I know you, like, I know you from that time when I was in Nigeria. So I knew when you say this is simple, this is it. So yeah, I've known how to do. I can take care of I know like which for example, oils to use, and I can do simple styling to myself. So yeah, I've picked a few styles along the way.
Okay, that's actually great. That's awesome. I still have a lot of questions to ask you, by the way, so I hope you're ready. I think I'm trying to decide which way to go first, if we should talk about mountain climbing before we talk about relationships, but I think I'll go relationships first. So it is very common that men with locks are stereotyped, like we've already said in the beginning of this conversation. And in finding a wife, you kind of have perceptions, not just from your wife, but also from your wife's family. It is my understanding, because I've been doing some mathematics here. You talked about being in that relationship like as far back as 13 years ago or thereabouts, and then your locks started only about 6 years ago. So this was something that happened in the middle of the relationship. If you don't mind, can you tell us how your partner kind of took that transition from knowing you as a clean-cut man to a man that now, you did mention you had an afro, to now deciding to lock your hair?
Okay. Now, luckily I'm in a so kind of I'll call open. We discuss if I want to cut my hair. That's my wife. Oh yeah, how long should I leave it? How far should I go? That kind of stuff. I want to apply a bit of color. Should I go for this? No, you look good on this. You look good on that. So I had kind of mentioned to her that there's something that I want to do in life, and I would want to put to have some locks. So she was cool with that. And I remember there was a time we were just seated and we went through, you went on
Google.
internet to go and look at some styles. So if you have locks, how can you style? Which one? Which one would be cool? So we opened up. It wasn't before. It was way before the Instagram. So we went on online, and so first she was okay with that, and then afterwards, I'll be truthful to say, when I had them, first she was like, I don't know if now I like you with them or I don't know. But okay, because now you have them, let's see. But again, she reminded me, because I told her if I have them, then I'll have them for a number of years, and that's almost like 5 years. So she was like, okay, I'll be looking, because I love you truly when you have. But truly, slowly they can. She warmed up to the idea, and she saw. As I always tell people, we are the custodians of locks. So because of the perception of the people, because I was even shocked that even in the UK, if you have locks, you are druggy, you are all that kind of. So for her also, she had that kind of, we need them to have a clean look, you need to be this, you have to be this. And I've been the custodian of locks, as I tell you, I've told you. Then I had to keep them clean, and then slowly, yes, she warmed up to me having locks. But I'll tell you this, she's looking forward to the day I think I'm going to cut them, so that I'm back to the way she knew me. So she longs for that for that look.
Okay. Yeah, I understand her though. I would imagine if I fell in love with a man that had a big afro and then he changes it up on me in the middle of our relationship, I may not be very pleased. So it might just be looking for that young afro man. So yeah, I think I'm with die on this one. So when the time comes though, yeah, the next parts of relationships I would like to explore. How do your kids or your child, how does she perceive you? I'm so sorry, I'm mentioning names, and I'm already, because I do know you so well, I know that there's you have a child called Michelle, so I'm going ahead and thinking like everybody else is on the same page with me. But tell us about how your child perceives you with locks.
Well, I've got a daughter who just turned 19, so called Michelle, living together. The lovely lady. First, she wasn't sure. She's grown up knowing dad with this clean, small hair and a tiny afro. And so the first time she wasn't quite sure of do I like or love daddy with locks. And then later on, when I think she even started washing it for me and styling it, she grew to love them. And now she is like, oh no, don't cut. I love them. So she is cool. And yes, when I want them to be clean or something, or for a bit of style, now she knows how to style them, and she's a good helper with keeping them clean and style up. So yeah, she loves them now. She loves them. Yeah, she loves them.
That's actually quite nice. I would imagine that, having been a teenager myself, because I don't want to say I've had a teenager, I don't have teenagers, but I can imagine that teenagers can be a little bit difficult to connect to when they start to become teenagers. So it's nice to have a way of connecting with your daughter through your hair. Oh, okay, all right. And then back home, when you decided this at 40 and going back to Kenya for holidays, I presume, how did family on that side perceive your hair?
Now I have being the youngest of the 4 brothers and very close to my nephews and my uncles, nephews and nieces. They're so cool. they were so happy that they have an uncle who has locks. So that part I didn't have any problem. I never had even problem with my old man, my dad. He was so cool with it, because now my dad he is cool, and he is now like, when they fought the war, and that is that, and then he became now this man with suits and everything. So he loves to be clean and everything, and that is the things he loves. But now, as I told you, being the custodian of the locks, I was clean. My locks were clean, they were tidy, and they were well cared. And I think he sat and observed, and at the end of the day, he didn't have a problem with that. So he never talked to me about locks. Now I'm even surprised when some of my family members want to put locks. He tells them, if you have to have locks, then they should be as tidy, as clean as your uncle. So yeah, he has and he has loved them. He has accepted them, and the whole family. My mom doesn't have a problem. My brothers and sisters, they don't even want me to cut them, and so yeah, I was received well in the family with my locks, and which was now, having grown up thinking, what are they going to think about my locks and all that, the fear. Yeah, I was surprised that even my dad embraced my locks.
So right, that's awesome. That's great to hear. I love to hear positive affirmation from family and relationships. So it almost seems like our wife is the one that we have to beg for a few more years to allow us to carry it before we eventually cut it and give her back our afro.
Surprisingly, surprises me once in a while to say, hey, you look good, and I know she knows. But she's also, hey, but remember, you promised me, these people, you promised me. Yeah. So there was a timeline, there was this from here to that end, and now I'm still like looking to continue up to my 50s or 50 with my locks. So she's like, yeah, much as I love them, still I want you to yeah. So yeah, I know where she stands. Yeah, I know the locks. Yeah.
Okay, now I want to kind of talk about a very interesting part of your life that we have managed to keep silent-ish up till this point of the podcast. When I did meet you in Lagos about 4 or 5 years ago now, I really can't pinpoint the time. I just feel like I've known you forever. I did mention to you that I wanted to climb a mountain. And I was thinking, of course, if you want to climb a mountain, you first of all go to Kilimanjaro because that's all you know. And somewhere along the line, I decided to climb Mount Kenya. And you were one of the people that encouraged me because you are actually a professional mountain climber. So I'm really happy for Locitude and like all the great people and awesome people that I meet that enable, me to do all sorts of things. So the backstory for our listeners is, yes, by the time I decided to really go and climb Mount Kenya, Ngumo didn't live in Nigeria anymore, but we were still able to connect, and he was the one who took me up my first big mountain. Now, I want to talk about mountain climbing a little bit. I know it's a little bit off topic, but we will talk about how you care for your hair if you're in the mountains a lot. And some of those trips, you're there for 7 days on end. So we did Mount Kenya together, I think in 2018, and it was a beautiful trip. It was my first big mountain. It was nothing like I expected. And then in 2019, we did Mount Kilimanjaro together again. And I think my trip in 2019 was really emotional because it was a few days after my dad had passed, and it was really everybody else who we had planned a trip with had to cancel, but Ngumo came all the way from Qatar to take me up that mountain, and we did peak. So backstory done. Ngumo, tell us a little bit about being a professional mountain climber. What does that really mean?
It means fresh air. It means enjoying and appreciating the work of God. It means freedom. It means everything that is good in life, I think. Well, some people contest that, but it is, because you're getting tired. How can it be everything that is good in life? I from when I think I remember myself as a small boy, I was adventurous. I was those boys that could climb trees, jump into rivers. I've got some weird stories about when I was growing up. I was those boys that would go and throw stones at the beehive so that you can be chased, and I knew uh, bird's nest were, and all that kind of stuff. And I could be all alone. I grew up in a small, like in a up country, closer to a town, but it wasn't all that close. And I loved that, just being out there. And I remember as I grew up, I also wanted to be a soldier. And the reason is not because I wanted to kill anybody or to shoot anybody or to be shot. It's all that life of being in the forest, camping. To me, that was what I was seeing. I didn't see what soldiers do. I knew that soldiers go and camp and be there in the forest. So it has been there, the outdoor in me. And then, unfortunately, when I finally finished high school, I didn't become whatever I wanted to be. So I started working in a factory in Nairobi. And after 6 years, I was like, you know what? I wasn't cut for this. I'm not 8 to 5 or so, no, office is not for me. And one day I just left. I didn't even finalize anything. I just left one December and I went back home. Sent papers afterwards, resignation, I resigned and everything, without nothing but just me and myself. Went back to the family, to back up country. And that's when later on we opened a company with my brother, and then from the third floor of our office, every morning I could see Mount Kenya far in the distance, and I could stop doing whatever I was doing just to gaze at the beauty of Mount Kenya. Then one time my sister called me and said, hey, do you want to do Mount Kenya? I say, wow, yes, I want to do Mount Kenya. I say, my husband has a group, and they're I think, Canadian high school kids. And do you want to join? I said, yes, please, I want to come. And that's how I also left my company with my brother, and I never looked back. And so Mount Kenya became my office, and I worked there for a few years, like 6 years, and then before now going to Kazakhstan, and then I continued. That's where I met somebody, a Russian guy called Mika. We used to call him Mika. And then again, he introduced now to rope climbing, like now proper rope technical. And then, God, I was married to the mountains. So yeah, that's the summary. That's how, and then later on went to the UK, did their mountains, and then went to do a mountain course in the UK, which I did, and I finished, and then I returned back home to do some more mountains. So I'm still doing mountains, and hoping to do mountains until my old ribs will tell me no more.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. I think climbing a mountain is an experience and a half. It kind of tells you a little bit more about yourself. Having climbed mountains with you, I just want to get your own perspective. In those 6, 7 days, 5 days when you are in the mountain, camping, are you even thinking about your hair? Are you worried about what's my hair doing? Especially considering the fact that a mount like, I think even 2 of them, mountains like Kilimanjaro and Kenya, they take you through almost 4 seasons in the matter of like 4 days. So you go from thick forest, humid atmosphere into like a shrub atmosphere, into a desert-like atmosphere, then into glaciers, all in the period of a very short time. Does it ever bother you what is happening to your hair in that period, or are you just focused on the goal?
Well, there are 2 things. I think I get more worried about my hair before I start a big climb. As you're saying, an adventure, like we did Kili, that was almost 8 days. So of all these different terrains and weather patterns and everything. You go to Kenya, you do another 1 week. I've been to like Scotland, where I've done like a whole 14 days.
Wow.
And that's day 1 to the last. That whole trip takes 14 days. You get rained on, you get a bit of sunshine, and then all that kind of stuff. So I'm more worried of before I start the hikes. And that's why I always find, like, because it's all planned, I have to be ready. So I have my hair done before, and then in between, if it's done, then I'll, in my travel bag, in my rucksack, I'll have like a little bit of hair food to keep, to try maintain it. So yeah, I worry about it, but again, when I go to the mountain, you're too much into the mountain and everything. But at the end of the day, you to remember your hair in the morning when you're washing your face and taking care of yourself. Then I'll put a little bit of hair food, a lotion here, and then I'll cover it. When it's raining, I need to take care of it and cover it with a proper rainproof hat, so that at least I keep it, because, well, if it gets all wet, then it's trouble to try and keeping it drying it. So yeah, it's more of when before I start any big hike, I've got to have my hair done, and then if it's not done, then I've got to make sure that I have the necessary oils, at least either 2 or 3 different, that I'm going to be applying to keep it going. Because I always think at the back of mind, I'm a custodian of the locs. So I want even people out there to still look at my hair and say, wow, now I would like to have locks. Because we're up in the mountain in day 6 and they still look okay.
Yeah, right. I love the word you keep using, the custodians of locks. I think we've had a very rich conversation so far. And I wish I had thought about this before the podcast, so I would know the exact way to phrase it, but I'm going to try. I think they say things like, if you are left on a deserted island, what 3 things would you have for your hair, or something like that. So let's try and imagine you are left on a mountain all by yourself and you can't find your way down and you are stuck for a while. What 3 things would you have for your hair?
Oh boy, 3 things. 3 things now. Very interesting. Well, oils first. So I'll have either any. Well, it's not easy to find Vaseline hair tonic, man. Those ones for the days. So I have oils, and I think to keep it moisturized, you can use either, you have some water, and then I'd like to have a hairband.
Okay, all right.
So I've got, yeah, because I would like to change the hairstyle. I'll go crazy. Well, you can always tie another with 3 strands of your hair, of your locks. But yeah, I never come to think about it. So I think it will be all different types. I'll have oils, and I'll have
water, you said.
Yeah, I will get water, and then I'll have shampoo to clean it, at least so that you get the grit out of it. So because you cannot keep on applying oils when it's dirty.
Yeah, I get you though. I feel you did very well with that question. I'm not sure what my response would have been if I got asked that. So if anybody's asking me such a question in the future, just know I'll be imitating you. I think oils, water, and a hairband sounds like the 3 things that you kind of really want if you're stuck for a while on the mountains. Right, so this has been awesome so far. Just a couple more questions and then we'll take it from there. But first of all, or we'll wrap up from there. But first of all, let's kind of go through some of the things that you've said that kind of struck me. First of all, your locks were kind of a promise to yourself, something that you always wanted to do, and you sought your independence. You thought that when you were completely independent of your society and environment, you decided
Yeah.
to do it. You keep on mentioning custodians, saying that we are the custodians of our hair. I feel it's a little bit unfortunate that we kind of have to be custodians of something that is growing out of our bodies and so natural to us. But I do get it that if we want the perceptions and the negative stereotypes to change, then we have to be the custodians of our hair to say, hey, look, you can be anything you want to be with your hair. We have also learned from you that you need to find a loctician who is focused on the welfare of your hair. So that way it's not just about money and you are getting the right treatment for your hair. We've also seen you navigate several countries over time with your hair and gaining Nigerian names, trying to learn Pidgin English in the process. I think so far so good. It's been exciting. One word that actually strikes out, which most of our other podcast guests mention in reference to their hair, is freedom. But I did like that you mentioned it in reference to the mountains, because yes, when you're out there, it's almost like a pilgrimage. You go out, you're walking for miles and climbing, and your body feels like you're going to die, but the accomplishments and the freedom, the fresh air, and just imagining how beautiful this planet is and seeing it for yourself firsthand in an untouched state is just amazing. So that's been awesome so far. So I guess my last question for you today is, if there's anyone out there who is potentially planning to travel around the world and has locked hair or is planning to lock their hair, what advice would you have for them?
Just travel. Just travel. If you, it's we are supposed to wear our hair the way we want. So there's somebody who is a bald head, that's how they want to be. There's somebody who want to be locked, that's a part of what you've got to be. And lock your hair and travel. Just let it be you. Be how you can wear a suit. There's somebody who wants to wear a tight suit, baggy suit, color. There's somebody who wants a wig. There's someone wants braids for the ladies. There are some other ladies that want to be this guy. These days, some ladies they get their hair shaved, and it's just your personality. So just get locked and travel. Keep it neat. Keep it tidy. So that people, when they look at you, they don't just, they just look at it being disgusted because it's not true. That's why I'm saying we are custodian. We have to keep it. We have to fight. So let me just answer it back. Like, just lock your hair and travel. Mm-hmm. That's the only thing I can say. People have looked at me in a funny way, but at the end of the day, they are like, oh, okay, I think I like his hair more than the one I saw with the other guy. So that's the difference. So keep it tidy and have your hair. Don't be who you are and travel the world.
I lied. I said that was my last question, but I like what you said now, and I realized that we really didn't touch on that. So when we think about locks, we think about locks in the context of places that are black dominated. So like our continent, Mother Africa is full of black people, and we have our stereotypes about our hair. When you go to the UK and the US, you do have significant amounts of black people around, even though, yes, we're the minority. But in an Arab nation, I can imagine that blacks are even more of a minority. What is it really like being a black man with locked hair in Qatar in 2021?
So I'll answer that with a small story. When I came here, regardless that you have an international driving license, you have to, as if you're not from UK, Canada, and wherever, another funny country, you have to do a half-course driving. That is in their law. So when I came here, I had to go and do my half-course driving. When the day came for my for my test, one of my friends who I had met called me and she told me, hey, my friend, you have to do something with your hair. I'm like, what do you mean I have to do something with my hair? And then she was like, you have to wear either a beanie hat or you have to cover it with something. Because these guys, they might even look at you and fail you. And I was like, so that thing for a week before, I think, a week before my test, it was eating me up. I'm like, this is me. This is who I am. But with these Arabs and everything, now the guy can fail me because of having locks, and it ate me. And I was like, and then at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? This is me. This is who I am, and I'm going just to be who I am. So I didn't hide my locks, and I went there. They were nicely tied. They're nicely they're tidy and everything, and there was no problem. But now this is the whole thing. Some of them are not very comfortable with us. It's so you find some looks from the mainstream guys, Arabs, looking at you like, why? That's like supposed to be ladies' hairstyle. So why are you having it? But that's why I've just said, you travel, people are going to look at you in different ways. It's been hard, but it's not as hard like I can't leave the house there. I'm thinking apart from that, I haven't had anybody, they will look at you, but nobody has said anything. But it's all about how you wear your hair and how you walk around in your hair. And so it's all about, having that confidence. And when they look at you like, you know what, even in Kenya, some of them, they look at me like, why is he having that kind of hair? So when I have that kind of attitude, so now, I travel the world with my head held high.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking us a little bit to Kazakhstan, which I can't even really imagine what it will be like out there. Maybe I should put that on my travel list. Coming to Nigeria, where I met you, telling us a little bit about Uganda, and I think we're going to, at some point, plan to do the Rwenzori Mountains. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yes, the mountains of the moon, Rwenzori, beautiful mountains, beautiful. Spend 10 days, some of the best time.
Yeah, and thank you for the stories from Qatar and just having a perception of what that is like, and from the UK. And I think I've learned a lot more about the Kikuyu tribe, Kenya, and for my own personal curiosity, I'm probably going to be researching the Mau Mau War. So I think this has been packed. This has been interesting. And I don't want to take all of your Sunday from you yet, because even though it's a holiday for me, it's actually a work day for you. So, which is interesting. So thank you so much, Ngumo, for joining me on this episode. It's been a pleasure, as always, talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me around. It was a great pleasure. Pleasure is all mine. And I've enjoyed everything. And thank you so much for doing what you did to my locks.
My pleasure. All right, Ngumo, bye.
Okay, bye.
That was an enjoyable conversation, which has led me to be a bit more curious about the history of our brothers and sisters on the east of the continent. Even though we are different, our stories are mostly the same. Well, it was a pleasure to speak to Ngumo as always, and I hope you enjoyed it. In our next episode, we'll be focusing on locks and the buzzword feminism. This is often controversial, but I hope our guest and I will be able to peel off the scales and make some sense of it, and also see if locks plays a part or has a reflection on that ideology and lifestyle. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the Talking Locks podcast with Locitude. It has been such a pleasure being your host. My name again is Adi Balogun, and thanks to our producer, Savage Media. Please don't forget to follow us on social media. We are at Locitude, Locitude, and you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And for more interesting podcast episodes on Everyday People with Locks, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. We are currently on Google, Apple, Stitcher, and Spotify podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. And don't forget to keep it locked with an attitude. Bye.